Good. So let's get going. Do we need to go through this one? We did this one yesterday, right? Or the day before? Right? This is right angular triangle. This angle is theta. So sine theta is the opposite divided by the hypo, which is opposite divided by hypo over here. And cosine is the adjacent divided by the hypo. Cosine this is the adjacent divided by the hypo. And the tangent is just the opposite divided by the adjacent. And this is the reciprocal of sine, this is the reciprocal of cosine, this is the reciprocal of tangent, right? So let's not waste time on this one. Let's get going. It's just a review. Okay, this is a little bit interesting. We went through it yesterday. We talked a little bit about it, right? Let me ask you this question. What is the value of this angle right here? Pi minus theta, right? Yes or no? Huh?
Yes.
Good. So this is pi minus theta. If this is pi minus theta, this angle also will be pi minus theta. Right?
Right, Doctor.
Good. Good. Okay. Now what we will be doing is we will be studying the trigonometric functions of general angle theta, and we're going to study based on three parameters, x, y, and r, where x is on the x-axis for pi minus theta is the adjacent, and y is the opposite, and of course the hypo is the radius. And for studying this, we have to keep in mind x squared plus y squared plus y squared equal to r squared. All the time we have to keep this in mind for this study. And anytime we're studying the trigonometrics, one angle must be equal to 90. Otherwise, it will not work. So one angle must be equal to 90. So let's take this example. Of course, this is the 90 degrees. And anytime we have one of the sides equal to 1, okay? If we have one of the sides equal to 1, the other side could be equal to 1 or could be equal to something else. So if this side is equal to 1 and this side is equal to 1, you can see that this side also equal to 1. In that case, we have what? We have these two sides are equal. So this angle will be pi over 4, which is 45 degrees and 45 degrees. And this is 90 degrees. And the total of the angles is 180. So this is 90 and this is 90 divided by 2. This is 90 divided by 2. Okay. Since these angles are equal, then their opposites must be equal. But these angles are not equal. So their opposites will not be equal. The opposite for pi over 6, which is 30 degrees, the opposite will be 1. Okay. And since this is 30 degrees, this is 1, then the hypo must be twice this value. So the hypo will be 2. One more time. Anytime we have a right angular triangle and we have one of the angles equal to 30, then the opposite of the angle equal to 30 in length will be half the length of the hypo. This is the length of the hypo. Okay? So now that we have talked about these two, we know that if we consider this as the x-axis and consider this as the y-axis, then we said x squared plus y squared must be equal to what? R squared. Okay? So x squared is 1 plus y squared is 1 square, 1 square. This must be giving us what? R square, right? Let's find R square. So R square is what? 1 square plus 1 square. R square is equal to 2. But if we want the square root of this, okay, then we will get the square root of 2, right? Which is this, right? Okay, Shabab?
Okay.
And likewise over here, our x is equal to 1, our y is equal to square root of 3. So x squared plus y squared, square root of this square must be equal to what? Must be equal to r squared, right? If we want the square root, so we'll get the square root of this and the square root of this. The square root of this is going to give us what? Square root of 1 plus 3, right? And that's going to be equal to what? 2, which is equal to r, right?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so let's get going. This is something that is primitive. You've gone through it in high school and maybe intermediate school and prep year. All are positive, sine only is positive, tan only is positive, cosine only is positive, okay? Let's get going then. Okay. This one we worked with it a little bit last time, so we could just touch base on it. You can see that this angle is 2 pi over 3. This angle is 2 pi over 3. Okay? And this side is 1/2. When we're talking about 1/2, we're talking about the length, because this is half of the radius. The radius is 1. So you can see the radius is equal to 1. So this is 1/2. This angle is right angle. Okay? So since this angle is right angle, and this is 1 for the hypo, and this is half, the adjacent is half, so this angle must be what? Pi divided by 6, right? If this is pi divided by 6, this angle must be what? Pi divided by 3, right? معي يا شباب?
معك.
Good. So now that that is the case, what we see over here is the x and y of the point P, x and y. So the point P, its x is -1/2. Okay, so you can see that this point, if this is the origin, because this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, so if this is the origin will be 0, 0. So this point will be -1/2 and 0, right? Because -1/2 is the x value and 0, right? If that is the case, then what is the value of x and y? So let me put here x, put y over here. What is the value of x and y for the point P? For the point P, what is the value?
-1/2 and √3/2.
-1/2 and square root of 3/2. Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have these values. I told you that we need the trigonometrics to solve difficult problems. Let's suppose that we have difficult problems that are involving numbers, rational numbers or whatever. Now you can see we can map this to what? Negative half, we can map it to cosine of 2 pi over 3. Okay, let's take a look at which angle here. Its cosine is square root, its cosine is negative half. Which angle is cosine is negative half? Which angle is cosine is negative half? This angle, right? This angle.
Yes.
Look at this angle. Its cosine is adjacent divided by 1, right? So adjacent divided by 1, that's its cosine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could put over here cosine 2 pi over 3. We're not putting cosine pi, we're putting cosine 2 pi over 3. Because the only difference between the cosines is that one of them is the negative of the other one, right? So if I'm looking at this one, okay, as pi over 3, okay, its cosine is what? Is negative half, because cosine on this side is negative, right? But since the cosine of the complementing is -1 times cosine of this one, you can see that this will be cosine 2 pi over 3. So the half matches cosine 2 pi over 3. And let's take a look at the square root of 3 divided by 2. Okay, which angle has sine equal to square root of 3 divided by 2? Which angle has sine square root of 3 divided by 2? Must be the same angle, right? It is sine is square root of 3 divided by 2 divided by 1, which is square root of 3 divided by 2. But then we're not dealing with this angle. We're dealing with which one? We're dealing with the other angle, right? But since this is for sine, sine over here is positive, sine over here is positive. So we will just keep this as sine of what? 2 pi over 3. Okay? Clear, Shabab?
Yeah.
واضح.
Good. Let's get going then. Do we have to go through this? This is the period pi, and over here the period is 2 pi. For tan and cotan, the period is pi. And by the period, we mean when the function value repeats. Then, between 2 points where the function value repeats, this is called the period. And it will be clear from the next 2 slides or so. But anyway, the tangent of x plus pi is equal to the tangent of x. The cotan of x plus pi is equal to cotan of x also. However, for the sine and cosine, the period is not pi, the period is 2 pi. That's why the repetition will take place after 2 pi. And we will make sure that we will use the graph to prove that. So let's take a look at the graphs. Okay, so let's take a look at the graph of the cosine, for example. The cosine, when we are looking for the value of the cosine, that means we're looking for the blue from the y-axis point of view. Okay, so the blue, which is the cosine, it has a value of what at x equal to 0? It has a value of what? What is the value of the cosine at x equal to 0? 1, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Good. Now, what is the value over here? What is the value of the cosine over here? Probably half, right?
Half.
What's the value of the cosine here? 0,
Zero.
right? What's the value of the cosine here? Negative.
-half.
minus half.
Yes, and this is -1, right? And this is
Yes.
Excuse me, doctor.
this is
You
positive.
taught us this before yesterday.
Huh?
شرحت ذا أمس.
يعني ما بدكم اياه؟ ما بدكم نمشي عليها؟ يلا خير طيب.
بتعيد يعني الحين.
Okay.
عادة.
Okay. So the first time there is repetition is right here, right? This is repetition. This is repeated, but it's not the period, right? This is not repeated over here because, okay, the only one that's repeated is here. So that means this distance is what? 2 pi.
2 pi.
You see, start with 0 pi, we went to 2 pi, right? And likewise, you can use the same logic over here, okay? You see, over here, this is from 0 going down. This is from 0 going down, okay? So this is from minus pi to pi, that's 2 pi, okay? And likewise, you can also argue over here, but over here, what we have is we have asymptotes. The sine and the cosine, they spread covering the whole spectrum of the x-axis. And that's why their domain is from -infinity to infinity. And their range is the maximum value of the function and the minimum value of the function. So the range will be between -1, the minimum value, and +1, the maximum value. So y will be greater than or equal to -1, less than or equal to 1. Same thing for the cosine also. But the tangent is different because the tangent is a composite function. Tan of x is equal to sine of x over cosine of x, right? So sine of x over cosine of x. And you can see that we have asymptotes here. We'll talk about asymptotes later on, but asymptotes means what? The function will never reach a value at a point. See, this function, the tangent, will never reach a value when the angle or x is equal to pi over 2. For x equal to pi over 2, the function has no value. You can see the function will be approaching this red line, but it will never touch this red line, okay, until it goes towards infinity, okay? So that's what we call asymptote. So we don't want to include these values in the domain. So the domain excludes pi over 2 and -pi over 2, and then 3 pi over 2 and -3 pi over 2. Why? Because these are the asymptotes. So if we're looking at the domain is everything except, that means x cannot be equal to ± pi over 2, cannot be equal to ±3 pi over 2, cannot be ±5 pi over 2, and so on, the odd values, okay? But when it comes to the range is the value of what? The value of the function y-axis, right? So it will be going all the way to infinity on the top. So it will be cruising towards +infinity on the top and cruising towards -infinity from the bottom. So the range will be -infinity to +infinity. The period is just pi because it repeats after 1 pi. So you can see this is 0, right? The function repeats over here at pi. So the repetition is at pi, this and this repetition at pi, okay? The space between the two, okay? Their reciprocals are the same, so let's just skip these. Pretty much in the same manner, you can just exclude pi over 2, and over here exclude 0 and pi and 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. And over here, you exclude 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and so on. Okay, so let's just go through this real quickly. Now, what we have over here is pretty much we're replacing the adjacent length by cosine theta. And over here by mod of sine theta. Okay. What is the justification? Remember, this one was what? 1/2, right? In the previous example, right? And this one was what? Square root
Square
of
root of
over 2, right? And this one was what?
1.
Right? Remember, we said half is equal to what? Negative half, we said is equal to cosine, right? And we said square root of 3 over 2 is equal to sine. And the angle was 3 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, right? So over here, instead of the half, we just put cosine. Didn't we prove that the cosine is equivalent to this? Negative half. And the sine is equivalent to square root of 3 over 2. So we're just putting over here cosine, over here sine, okay? And over here just 1, okay? Because cosine square plus sine square is equal to 1, right? Also, if we look at the cosine, cosine is an even function. When we say a function is even, that means the function is symmetric about the x-axis. Let me give you an example. This function, is this function even or odd?
Odd.
Odd? Okay.
Even.
Think about the y-axis as a mirror. Is this an image? If this is the object, is this the image of the object? This is the image, right?
Yeah.
Right.
For x equal to 1 over here, x equal to -1, the value of y is the same. The value of y is the same for all values of x. Okay, so let's draw the curve of the cosine. The curve of the cosine is something like this. Right? And on the right-hand side, it's something like this. If we think of this as mirror, then the right-hand side is the object and the left-hand side is the image. They are the same, right? This is the y-axis, okay? So the cosine is symmetric about the y-axis, meaning if you put this as a mirror, you consider this as a mirror, then the value of x over here, same as the value of x over here. The value of x over here, same as the image. The value of x over here, same as the image, right? So this is the cosine. Let me just give you this function. Let's say we're going to plot y equal to x squared. X equal to 1, y will be equal to what? Huh?
1.
Y is equal to 1, good. Okay, so x equal to 1, y equal to 1, a point over here. X equal to 2, y equal to what?
4.
4, right? Okay, so it's going to be something like this. X equal to 0, y will be equal to 0, right? X equal to -1, what will the value of y be?
1.
1 also, right? So the line will go like this. X equal to -2, 4, right? So it will go up this way, right? And when it goes to 3, this will be 9, this will be 9, right? So we can say f of -1 equal to f of 1, right? because f of -1 is this. I mean, this f of 1 is this, right? F of -2 is this. F of +2 is this, right? Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, that means I can say f of x equal to f of -x, right? So put x equal to 1, f of 1 is equal to f of -1. F of 2 equal to f of -2, f of 3 is equal to f of -3, right? So that means this function is even. Okay, now if we go to the cosine is right here. This is the cosine, right? So if we consider this is 0, okay, 0, there is no negative and positive. So let's just take, for example, pi over, this is pi over, this is pi over 2 right here. So this is pi over 4, okay, pi over 4, okay. So pi over 4 and negative pi over 4 have the same y value, right? This is pi over 4, negative pi over 4, right? This is pi over 2, this is negative pi over 2, right? They have the same value for the y, right? This is positive pi, this is negative pi, right? They have -1, -1, right? Same values for y.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it satisfies the test for the even function. The test for the even function says for every x in the domain of the function, f of x equal to f of -x. Okay. Now, when it comes to the odd functions, since cosine is even, then its reciprocal must be even, right? Reciprocal is just upside down, right? So it must be. Now, sine is not even. Why? Because sine is not symmetric about the y-axis, right? It's not symmetric. So if this is the y-axis over here, sine, it's going to go like this. Right? And it's going to come like this. Right? So if you put a mirror over here, this is not image, right? If you put a mirror and this is the y-axis, they're not symmetric, right? They're not symmetric. يعني اتخيلوا هنا this is a human being, right? So this is the neck, right? من هنا symmetric. كل شيء من هنا بيشبه كل شيء من هنا، صح؟
صح.
بس over هنا هذا ما يكون شخص، مظبوط؟ لأن من هنا يختلف تماما عن هذا. هذا نازل لتحت وهذا، صح؟
صح يا دكتور.
But the odd functions are not symmetric about the y-axis. They are symmetric about the line that has slope equal to -1. Symmetric around that. If you consider this as the mirror, this point has corresponding point over here, this point has corresponding point over here, and so on. Okay? We don't say symmetric about the line that has slope equal to -1. We'll just say symmetric about the origin. This is the origin. Okay? So odd functions are symmetric about the origin. Even functions are symmetric about the y-axis. Okay? Okay, Shabab?
Okay.
Good.
اوكي يا دكتور.
Okay. Now this is a significant result. Okay. And this is actually, if you think about the triangle this way and think about this as cosine, okay, and this as sine, then this will be equal to 1, right? Why? Because x square plus y square equal to r square, right? So x square plus y square equal to r square. Our x square is what? Cosine square plus y square sine square equal to r square equal to 1. Okay?
Okay.
So this is the first rule that we have to remember. The second rule, we can deduce it from the first rule, right? I have to divide by cosine square theta everything, right? Divide by cosine square theta. Divide by cosine square theta, right? If I divide, the first one is going to give me 1.
1.
The second one is going to give me tan square. The third one is going to give me the reciprocal of what? The reciprocal of cosine, which is sec square, right? If I want to the second one, all I have to do is I have to go ahead and divide by what? If I want to prove the second one,
Cosine.
divide by sine or cosine? Divide by sine square theta, divide by sine square theta, right? Divide by sine square theta. This is going to give me cotine, cot square theta, right? And this is going to give me 1, and this is going to give me what? Right? This is basically the same as this, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this you've done in the high school, in the middle school, in the prep here. So cosine A plus B is equal to cosine A cosine B minus sine A sine B. And sine A plus B is equal to sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B. These you have to remember. Okay, let's get going then. Now, this is the twice or double the angle formula. So cosine 2 theta equal to cosine square theta minus sine square theta. Cosine 2 theta equal to cosine square theta minus sine square theta, right? And sine 2 theta equals to 2 sine theta cosine theta. Okay, can we prove this? If I ask you to prove
Yes.
it, prove it? How?
Yes,
How?
because cosine equal cosine نرجع حق القانون اللي قبل،
اللي هو ايش؟
الصفحة اللي قبل.
اللي هو اعطينا القانون. Cosine, let's say A plus B equal to what?
cosine A
Cosine A cosine
Cosine B
minus sine A
minus sine A sine B.
sine B. Excellent. But now our A equal to B equal to theta. So this will be 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, right? A equal to B equal to theta, this will be cosine square theta, right? A equal to B equal to theta, this will be negative sine square theta, right? Just instead of A theta, instead of B theta. So this will be 2 theta, right? And this will be cosine theta times cosine theta, which is cosine square theta. Minus this will be sine A will be sine theta, and sine B sine theta, so sine square theta. Okay? Clear?
Yeah.
واضح يا شباب؟ Do we have to prove the second one? Second one. How do we prove the second one? Also using what? Sine of A plus B equal what? Sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B, right? Now put what? Put theta equal A equal B. So this will be what? Sine 2 theta, right? Equal to what? theta equal A and theta equal B. So this will be what? Sine theta cosine theta plus sine theta cosine theta, right? And this will give you what? 2 sine theta cosine theta, right? Which is this? Correct?
واضح.
Okay, now this one we can prove it from this one, from the top. We can use this. Let's do it. Cosine 2 theta equal to what? Cosine square theta minus, instead of sine theta, I'm going to put 1 minus cosine square theta, right? I can replace sine square theta because I know that cosine square theta plus sine square theta equal to 1, right?
Yes.
So sine square theta is equal to 1 minus cosine square theta, right? Right? Sine square theta, correct? So now we come over here. We have what? We have cosine square theta minus 1 and then plus cosine square theta, right? And this is going to be equal to what? 2 cosine square theta minus 1. And this is equal to what? Cosine 2 theta, right? Now take the one on the other side. It will be what? Cosine 2 theta plus 1 equal to 2 cosine square theta, right? Divide by 2 both sides. Okay. This goes, you have cosine square theta equal to cosine 2 theta plus 1 divided by 2, which is this one. Okay. Question, Shabab? Is this clear?
واضح.
Okay. Do we need to do the second one or the same way? Do we need to do the
It's the
second
same
one?
way.
Yeah. You could just go ahead and do it the same way. All you need to do is instead of replacing what? Replacing the sign over here, you have to replace the cosine. Replace the cosine, you're going to get it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it real quickly. So we could use the same equation, which says what? Cosine 2 theta equal to cosine square theta minus sine square theta. Since we're looking at sine square, so we'll replace cosine. So this is 1 minus sine square theta, and then minus sine square theta, right? This is this. Okay, this is the same thing. The only thing we did is we replaced the first term, which is cosine square. We left the rest the same, right? And then we can just collect these terms. This will be 1 minus sine square theta minus sine square theta will be minus 2 sine square theta, right? And this is what? Cosine 2 theta, right? Now let's take a look. Let's take 2 sine theta to the other side. So this will be what? 2 sine square theta. And we will bring cosine theta to this side. So it will be minus cosine 2 theta, right? Now we have to divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2, right? Divide by 2, the 2 goes with the 2. So sine square theta equal to 1 minus cosine 2 theta divided by 2, which is this. Got it? Question? Any question, Shabab?
واضحة.
ممكن تعيد أول واحدة
عيد الأولى.
بس.
هادي.
أنا اللي فوق.
هادي.
أول واحدة فوق. دبل أنجل.
هادي.
إيه.
قصدك هادي؟
أيوه هذا.
هادي. طيب. هادي إثبات إثبات ليش؟ هذه إثبات لهذه صح؟
صحيح.
طيب خلينا نفضي الجو هنا. أوكي، القانون هذا بقول إيش؟ كوساين A plus B equal to cosine A cosine B minus sin A sin B صح؟
صح.
طيب هلا إذا كانت ال A equal to B A equal to B equal to theta أوكي؟ A equal to B equal to theta يعني بنعوض عن A بثيتا نعوض عن B ثيتا. هذا بيعطينا كم؟ كوساين إيش؟ كوساين 2 ثيتا صح؟
صح.
عوض عن ال A بثيتا B ثيتا هذا بيعطيك إيش؟ كوساين ثيتا تايمز كوساين ثيتا يعني كوساين سكوير ثيتا مظبوط؟
ايوه مظبوط.
minus sin A sin B so بدل A and B حط ثيتا ثيتا بيكون minus sin سكوير ثيتا. هذا يثبت لنا هذه. اوكي
اوكي
وضحت؟
تمام شكرا.
Thank you for asking. I'm sure this please ميمان لا يتعلمان مستحن ومتكبر. ميمان لا يتعلمان هذه في ايش؟ هذه في ثقافتنا يعني واحد ما يستحي يسأل واللي بيسأل دائما والله ياخذ أجر لأنه بيكون في ناس غيره مستحيين أو مستكبرين. أتمنى إنه ما يكون عندكم واحد لا مستحي ولا مستكبر اسألوا. Okay, let's get to the next exponentials. I think it's a good time to take a break because I need to convert the file. I need to convert them and I'm going to put them for you on the internet. So we're going to stop right here, take a 10 minutes break, and then we will continue and we will wrap up chapter 5 or section 1.5. Okay, so we're going to have the attendance after the break. So please take a 10-minute break and come back, okay? $10 break and come back. If I didn't come back after 10 minutes, that means the conversion is taking longer time, okay?